Executive Director of Laikipia Wildlife Forum, and he's very kindly consented to open Timothy's exhibition. So, yeah, welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much, Carol. Again, my name is Peter Hetz. I am dealing with Laikipia in the central part of Kenya and with wildlife, but more importantly with people. And it's because of, I think, our shared love of both these things that Tim's asked me to present today. So you'll excuse me if I read off of a semi-prepared script because there are words in here that I wanted to capture as they come from Tim. 42 in England, a baby of the war. He moved to Kenya in 1947 and he graduated with a fine arts degree in 1965. So one might look at this and say Tim is a child of art. A baby of the fine arts. He did, as many people do, traveled as an artist does through Europe for about 15 years, if I'm correct.
21.
21 years, yeah. You know the scene, and he was a child of the age of Aquarius. He returned to Kenya in 1980, back to coup attempts, spandex, leg warmers, and perhaps to escape from the disco phenomenon in the UK. Tim has exhibited in Ireland, in Poland, in the US, in England, and here in Nairobi. I'm going to admit a bias from the beginning. I've known Tim since 1982, and I fell in love with his work. We met at Gallery Watatu, for those of you who've been in this part of the world for some time. And today is the 27th exhibit of Tim's work in this country over the last 34 years, if I've counted my exhibits correctly. So he's fairly prolific and, as you may note, very collectible. So any comments from here and on out from me are biased. But Tim wanted me to mention these comments from the artist. I don't know what it is about opening artistic exhibitions, but the artist seems never allowed to speak. He invites some proxy to come in, either by blackmail, or he's hired that person, or perhaps it would just be considered, they're my works, they speak for themselves, and it would be presumptuous for me to introduce myself. But I wanted to capture these because I think, as Tim does, that there's an important sense of understanding. It's a bit like literature and music. What's the inspiration? Where does this come from? Are you born with this? Is this something that you are gifted with? Or is it a combination of experience, nature, and nurture? So Tim writes, painters try to express the basic, essential matter of the way we see, to create a vision of harmony. We decide how and why to tackle this machine we call the world, or to indulge in abstraction. Others try to make it meaningful, consistent, and concise. My earliest inspiration comes from the 1950s, when I experienced Kenya as an abundance of wilderness, plentiful wildlife, and people in traditional dress. A bit of a dream of Africa. This vision persists in my paintings despite mitumba. Those of you who know mitumba, the second-hand clothing markets that characterize a lot of where we collect all of our clothes. Excuse me, it's not just Kenyans, even me. I am drawn to people who move in response to natural patterns. The pastoralists, semi-nomads who express color so well in their headscarves, in their shukas, in their kikois, cloths that resemble unchanged, that appear unchanged since biblical times. And now I chronicle the emergence of wilderness into the 21st century. Pastures are now found in Nairobi as home grazing territories become overwhelmed by population and resource loss. I am particularly fascinated by the black and white patterns of zebra, or zebra, a testimony to the abstractions that work. Abstractions in this natural world is survival. Is there a way to embolden people and use art to conserve to preserve and to remain dedicated to the protection of wild places and wildlife. Art itself is a transmission of value, and its interpretation should echo culture and civilization whereby humanity can live creatively in society. Our efforts as artists must support itself and inspire and give meaning to this wonderful natural world. He concludes by saying, to become an artist is a long apprenticeship to life and to seeing. And Tim asked that I share this quote from a famous artist called Giacometti, which best captures Tim's sentiments. Yes, I make pictures, and have always made them since I was able first to draw or paint, to attack reality, to defend myself, to nourish myself, to become stronger, to better defend and better attack, to have firm ground beneath my feet, to be able to process in all places and in all directions, and to be as free as possible, to protect myself from cold and hunger and death, to become free for the striving, with these means, which means to be appropriate to better see and understand my environment, so that I can be even freer to expend my energies to give as much as possible of myself to what I am doing, to experience adventure, to discover new worlds, to carry on at a struggle. And as a consequence of that long-winded Giacometti quote, I think Tim might enjoy this very much shorter Giacometti quote. The object of art is not to reproduce reality, but to create a reality of the same intensity. And I think if you look around you, you will have some appreciation that that is sort of the fire in Tim's belly. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I conclude with 4 things that I like best about my friend, Tim Brooke. Tim is an artist, and irrespective of money, paints for love. He is fearless. Tim has excellent taste in women, as can be attested by his wonderful wife and intrepid daughters. And because of his classical training, I love his portrayal of the female form. And in a country that is preoccupied with replicating and copying nature and wilderness, filling it full of guides and guidebooks where we're expected to see reality, Tim interprets. He works to create a reality of that same intensity. And so for me, Tim is a manifestation of 2 of the world's favorite artists. The first one, and Tim, you'll appreciate that, is a classicist in your origins. Picasso said, "Learn the rules like a pro, so that you can break them like an artist."
Thank you very much.
And Degas, who said, "Art is not what you see, but what you make others see." So I take great pleasure in announcing the formal opening of the 27th Tim Brooke exhibit since returning to Kenya in 1980. Congratulations, Dr. Brooke.